Hello and welcome to Little Learners. I recently put out a poll on the YouTube community tab asking what kind of videos you wanted to see next. Phonics was the winner, with maths coming second, so don't worry, I will be putting up some more maths content soon. But in today's video, I thought that it would be good to kind of go into more detail when it comes to sounding out words using phonics. If you want to see any of my other phonics videos, of which there are many, you can view them all in one playlist, or obviously you can just chop and change between them. I will link all of that in the description box below. Okay, so I'm kind of going to talk to you about two main things, I suppose. So the first one is robot arms, which you may have seen me use in other phonics videos if you've seen those. That is just a way of using movement to help children when they're sounding out words. The second thing I'm going to talk to you about is the schwa, and we'll get onto that in a moment. I'm also going to cover a little bit about digraphs and trigraphs when sounding out words as well, so you get a kind of idea of those. So first of all, when we are sounding out words using phonics, many children find it helpful to have some kind of a movement to go along with this. So research tells us that children do learn better when they are having lots of different types of learning. So when they're learning visually and they're listening to things and they're moving, so kinesthetic learning. So it's always good to try and get the learning across in as many different forms as possible. And when you're working with just one child, you will come to know how they learn best. When you're teaching an entire class of children, it's important to use these different learning techniques so that everyone can benefit in some way. When we are sounding out words, I like to use robot arms. So this is when you use your arms every time you are sounding out a letter. So for example, if I'm sounding out the word cat, I will do this. K, a, t. And when I've sounded out all of those, I will bring them together by clapping my hands and saying cat. So k, a, t, cat. This is really effective. I've found it really helps children a lot, and it's just something that they can be using independently. So if they're not sure of a word, instead of going straight to an adult to ask them what it says, they can sit there and try and do it with their robot arms instead first. It's also a really good technique if children are struggling to blend the sounds together. So what the robot arms are doing is when we are segmenting the sounds, so that's breaking down the word, so k, a, t, that's segmenting, and when we're bringing it together, bringing our hands together, we are blending all of those sounds together to make the complete word, cat. Many children will be okay with the segmenting and then find it a bit tricky to blend all of those sounds together. So with the robot arms, you can just keep going with the segmenting, getting faster and faster. For example, k, a, t, k, a, t, k, a, t, k, a, t, cat, cat. So it just helps them to bring all those sounds together, and the movement is just another way to help them do that rather than just saying it. It kind of helps them to really see the segmentation of the word as they're doing the movement. So I'm just going to go through a few more words for you now using the robot arms so you can see a few different examples. So let's think of the word top. So we'll do t, o, p, top, t, o, p, top. And then if we want to move on to more complicated words with more sounds in them, such as the word from, we are going to do the same thing again. F, o, from. Then we will find words that are a bit longer and may even include digraphs or even trigraphs or even a quadgraph. So if you want to know what those are, the link is in the description below. But basically, digraphs are sounds that have two letters but only make one sound, like sh, ch, and f. And trigraphs and quadgraphs, respectively, are sounds that have three letters or four letters. So if we think of a word with a digraph in it, like the word chip, we are going to do exactly the same thing. But remember, we are not going to sound out each individual letter now, because the C and the H, the K and the H, go together to make ch. So instead of k, h, I, p, k, hip, we are going to say ch, I, p, chip. A word with a trigraph in it might be the word sight. So we are going to do the same again, remembering that we've got that trigraph in there, so that is just one sound. So we sound it out like this. S, I, t, sight. S, I, t, sight. So this works for many, many, many words in the English language. Of course, there are words that cannot be sounded out phonetically. You may know these words as sight words or common exception words. So these include words such as was. So of course we can't really sound out was using phonics because it would be w, as, was. So those type of words are words that children just need to learn by sight. And that is something that I've gone over in another video, which I will also link in the description box below, all about sight words. So now we've kind of got the gist of how we can use our robot arms to help us when we are sounding out words, and we know how we are using the sounds to break up the word and then bringing them all together, so segmenting them and then blending them all together. We can move on to the topic of the schwa. Now the schwa is something that haunts all teachers who teach phonics, because it is something that comes up a lot. So a schwa is when you use the utterance after a sound. So this is most common with these sounds here. So instead of saying you say m, instead of saying l, you say l, which sounds harmless at first, but it can cause a lot of problems when children are then trying to sound out and then blend sounds together. So I think the reason that this happens is because years ago, when I was at school, and I know a lot of you watching, we did use schwas every day, and it was actually taught that way. Phonics was taught in that way, so we would learn m and n and l. This is problematic, and I will show you why we do not do this anymore. So let's take the word mat. Using proper phonics, the way that we need to do it, and using our robot arms, it will sound like this. T, mat. So you blend them all together and it makes the word mat pretty simple. But if you're using the schwa for and t, m and t, then it sounds very different. M, a, t, matter. It sounds like the word matter instead of the word mat. So let's hear the difference again. A, t, mat. M, a, t, matter. So you can see that this does cause a problem when children are then blending the sounds together. They're not making the word correctly. And I see this a lot. I see parents using this a lot, and it's not their fault at all. I totally don't blame the parents, because it's probably how they were taught at school, or they've heard it somewhere else. It's still very commonly used, but it's not what we use in school anymore, which is why I make these videos, to try and help you and then to benefit your children. Let's try it with a different word. So for example, the word light. So of course we've got a trigraph in there, and if we are sounding out in the correct way, it sounds like this. L, I, t, light. But if we use the schwas that are often associated with the sounds l and t, so that they sound like l and t, we get this. L, I, t, la-ita, which of course is not what we want. So in summary, for sounding out words using phonics, it's great to use some movements such as the robot arms to segment and then blend sounds together to be able to read a word. This helps children not only remember how to segment, because we're using kinesthetic learning as well as other learning, but it also allows them to do this independently rather than just giving up and asking someone what the word says straight away. We then also need to remember never to use a schwa. If you're unsure of which sounds suffer from the schwa and if you're saying them all correctly, then you can check out my videos linked in the description box below. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, as it really helps out my channel. If you want to see more videos like this, be sure to hit the subscribe button, and once you have, also click on the bell icon so you get a notification every time I post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.